Okay,
All right.
let's begin. This is a vast subject area. So we're going to be skimming the surface. But this idea of seven rays was brought up in the modern era with Madame Blavatsky and The Secret Doctor in Volume 1. And then it was elaborated by many of the early theosophical writers. And I'm going to lean heavily on Geoffrey Hodson's work on the seven rays and the seven temperaments and so forth, and some of his clairvoyant visions of the ray colors and so forth, as well as bringing in the Alice Bailey material, which is now becoming more part of theosophical thought and teachings throughout the National Center and around the world. So, like everything in life, we evolve and change and grow, and new insights come, and things are more elaborated and made more useful. That's the ideal anyway. So, what we want to do here is go over the seven rays in the sense of life itself, the life we are living, the world we live in, the beings around us. And for some reason, the number seven, which you will find saturating occult, metaphysical, and spiritual literature, biblical literature, you name it, the seven rays or the seven somethings are everywhere. The number seven goes on and on and on, all the different permutations of it. We're going to focus on a few parts of that. Now, ray one and ray two and ray three are considered the more is the Holy Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the Atma, Body, Manas. This is the original Trinity, if you will, one way of looking at this. Also, in terms of will, the first ray is the way that gets things going. Second ray, love, wisdom. Third ray, active intelligence. And we're also going to talk a little bit about how this applies to your individual lives, all of us, and how it applies to the nations and to the historical patterns that we're experiencing now with the various polarities and the tensions around the world. Okay, ray four, harmony. Five, science. Again, these are just quick keywords. Six is devotion. Seven is order. So the four rays there are kind of express the energies that that original triangle creates. And they bring it down step by step by step. So it manifests on our level on a deeper physical plane. Ray one, will or power, raw, dynamic, urgency. Now, it scares people when they hear purposeful destruction in service of the plan. But the first ray has also been called the Antichrist. It's what breaks things apart. It's the opposite of the Christ energy, which brings everything together. And why is it needed? Because without forms, countries, institutions, religions breaking up at some point, then they become crystallized and they trap the souls that are involved with them. This is a type of evolutionary growth. You don't always want to live in the body of a cockroach. Maybe you want to move to a body of a lizard. You want to constantly move forward. So the forms constantly change, evolve, and grow. When the first ray is misused, you have tyranny and isolation because it's their way or the highway. I'm breaking this each ray down a little bit more detailed too. So here we have the Lord of power or will, divine intent. What is God's will? What is God's plan? What are all the archangels working on? What do the masters do with their free time? It's all about this plan, the divine plan, the plan of the Logos, the Father, if you will. Chakra, crown chakra. In other words, energy coming through the top of your head and then downloaded eventually or slowly through the Antakarana, again through the head centers. Color, electric red. Tone, do. Here we're starting the musical scale. Kingdom of nature, divine, we're at a very high level. But the thing to focus on here for us tonight are the kind of the virtues and the shadows, because we want to ideally, or if we want to at all, find out which rays are governing our lives, because some rays are more than others. So do we feel we have a lot of courage? Are we some people that can just go through and get things done? Or do we dominate others? Do we use force? Are we tyrannical? Are we prideful? Now, historically, we could look at the Genghis Khans, George Patton, Julius Caesar, Helen Keller, Akbar, Alexandria, and Catherine, all the great. Why? Because they broke through and opened up new worlds for people. Genghis Khan conquered most of the known world, but by murdering everybody in his path. And he would tell people, you have two choices, either submit or die. That's pure first ray. You're either going to be part of this new thing or you're gone. Why does Helen Keller have a first ray soul? Because she took on every hindrance, every barrier you can think of, sight, hearing, everything. And she said, I'm going to take these all on. I'm going to prove I can get through them. And if I can get through them, you can too. So she became a role model of just never backing down, just going for it. And we can get into questions later. I'm going to go over this a bit. Then we get into ray 2, love, wisdom. This is a ray that affects all of us very strongly because we're living in a ray 2 world right now, ray 2 solar system. Radiates compassionate intelligence, inclusive understanding. This is definitely the heart. Unity of consciousness. We are all one. This is the yogic path. We are one. When it becomes distorted, we become emotional and possessive. We overattach. We become too sentimental. And we exclude others because of our feelings. We don't allow space for everybody else into our heart because we guard it. The ray of the teacher and healer. This is the Christ ray. So here we have again the Lord of Love, magnetic cohesion. What holds the universes together is not a romantic feeling or a loving feeling. It's a magnetic cohesion that allows growth, evolution, and maturity of all the forms because it holds the forms together long enough for them to be able to express the consciousness within. This is the Son, S-O-N, S-U-N. These are the higher archangelic level. We have the blueprints of the plan. God says, this is what I want. So the angels say, okay, well, let's make this work at the highest level. This is your sacred geometry. This is the perfection of form and structure. Come through the heart, the golden yellow. Virtue, compassionate intelligence, and unified consciousness. True love is all of us together. When the heart is wide enough to accept the good people, the bad people, the ones we like, the ones we don't, it's open to all. And the shadow is we attach to a limited version of love. And so we suffer. And these are the great teachers, the Yogananda, Edgar Cayce, Mahatma Gandhi, JFK, Plato, and Sai Baba. Now, Mahatma Gandhi opened his heart to the whole country of India. His heart and India were united. So his heart energy allowed India its own freedom, eventually over time. And of course, Yogananda, his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, depicts the devotional life very clearly. It's also the soul
What are you
ray of
doing here?
America and Great Britain, meaning that at some point in the future, America will express its soul, which is love and wisdom, and the world will be transformed. Britain also has this soul ray. And of course, America and Britain have been joined at the hip from day one. But their spiritual mission, if you will, or spiritual destiny, is to express on this planet true love wisdom. Easier said than done. Ray 3, abstract mind, active intelligence. This is organizing the energy into coherent patterns. This is the evolutionary journey. Universal design, the dance of Shiva, choreography, dancing, movement, purposeful forms, everything with a purpose. The masters work very, very efficiently. They don't waste thought or energy. Thought forms are purified to be the most effective for the most amount of people, for the greatest use, put it that way. And these thought forms then align with the higher plan so that everything is lined up. You don't have a lot of disharmony and disconnection. That's why as we learn to use our minds more effectively, we can be helping humanity or we can be hurting humanity. Right now, we're seeing a lot of misuse of this through our selfishness, through greed, and through a deceptive complexity that keeps people from understanding. I know there's a lot here. Just think about it. And again, we really want to feel more of what am I like? What are the rays affecting me? Here we are at the throat, again, the creative center, the mind of God, creative ideation. This is, again, if you're at the throat, you're at the word. So every thought, every word is creating something in the ethers. The theosophical literature pictures this very well. You can see what thought forms look like. You can see the building forces, the divas, through Hodson's work and others. Now we're up at the soul level, causal levels. Wise activity, are we aligned with the plan? And can we get a taste of the universal design? And that is you might say, the evolutionary journey of each of us as souls, where we start out totally relating only to ourselves, and then our families, and then our village, and then our tribe, and then our countries, and then our nations and continents, and on, bigger and bigger circles, until we actually can start raising that circle spirally and tap into what is the real plan that the angels and masters work on 24/7, and how can I help that? That's where we want to go. That'll speed up our evolution, and it'll speed up all the evolutions underneath us, which means all the kingdoms, the animal, the plant, the mineral kingdoms, all are affected by our thought. Anybody with pets knows that eventually the pet will start absorbing the mental auras of the owner. And that will help its evolution because it can only become individualized with a mental body. Again, just take this as for whatever, because this goes really deep. Okay, ray 4. Now we're getting to the real alchemies of life. Walter Russell talked about when he had a vision, rhythmic balanced interchange. That's what he saw the whole universe as being that kind of constant movement and cycle. And it can go into discord, it can go into beauty. But the rhythmic movement of it is what creates the beauty from the sound, from color, from anything that we're even thought, without being rigid, without being caught in thought forms of our own making or ones that we absorb from the areas around us. So the fourth ray is also called harmony through conflict, which is what happens when we're on a third dimensional planet, because it's a planet of constant friction. And that friction eventually smooths down the edges and creates harmony. It's the same way that the coal becomes the diamond, heat and friction. It's the evolutionary process, whether it's alchemy or human evolution or mineral evolution, it's the same process. So we try to seek a rhythm. That's why music around the world is the most healing and unifying force we have on the planet at the moment, because everybody can relate to rhythm, to music. If we're not using it so well, we get kind of moody, volatile, because we're not happy, we're not aligned, we're not in rhythm. We go up and down in our emotional swings. And obviously, whether we're having musical dissonance or thought dissonance, it's still uncomfortable. This is quite a journey. So again, with ray 4, it's the Lord of harmony, ideally. And here we have the great artists, we have beauty, and we have the refinement of the forms. And this is the great gift of the plant kingdom, is that it has refined the forms to such a degree that it can show the the final kind of disposition of what it means to be a plant, which is the scent from the flower. You know, when yogis pass or some of the tulkus leave their bodies or whatever, they say, oh, this incredible smell filled the room. We could smell roses or sandalwood, or we didn't even know what it was, but it was this gorgeous, incredible smell that was everywhere that we as they left their body, they left us that. That was who they were because they had evolved to that point. Just like your rose and your other plants have evolved to that point where they can give off scent. What is it? What does the mineral kingdom do? It evolves toward radiation. And since we are part mineral kingdom and part plant and part animal and part human and part angelic, we also become radioactive. We become suns, S-U-Ns, S-O-Ns, right? Okay. Heart. We're back in the heart again. And again, I'm going to give this to Kathy and she can send it out so you can actually read it and look at it without me speeding through it here. The virtue, of course, harmony, art and balance, because again, art usually is harmonic in some ways. And again, the shadow is when things are falling apart, you don't have harmony. And this could be in a relationship, could be in a country, could be anywhere. So we have the ray 4s really affect the artists. Mozart, Leonardo, Beethoven, Bach, Kabir. Again, poets, musicians, painters, sculptors, whatever. But again, each one of us has ray 4 in us somewhere. So how do we manifest that more actively in our lives because the goal is to be to master all seven rays for each of us and then be able to work with them creatively with the other groups. Because those of you studying or into the theosophical ways in deeper ways, you realize that we're all part of ashrams. And these ashrams are conditioned by these seven rays. So we're all part of this great planetary transformation via the ray energies. 5. This is the ray of the scientist, the person who wants the facts, who wants proof. But they expand wisdom through proving things, through making it real. This is the world we're living in now, the technical world, strongly influenced by the fifth ray, which is why you're seeing the AI and the technology that you are, because it's the fifth ray is promoting this deep scientific study. Now, if it becomes devoid of soul, then we're in trouble, which people are worried about now. If our technology becomes too powerful and it doesn't have any spiritual focus, then what's going to happen to us? The Lord of concrete knowledge and science. Now we're grounding stuff here. Ajna, third eye, animal kingdom. The virtues, if you know fifth ray people, they're the engineers. They're the ones who can fix things and do things and come up with theories that actually work. But as we learn science, as you could demonstrate now with quantum physics and all these things, it's scientific, but it's also expanding our consciousness of who we are as souls, even though it's technically physics or mathematics or biology or something like that. The dark side is always the cold side. These are the facts. But it's again, what about the feeling? What about justice in the law? What about the heart in the machine? And here you have very smart Rene Descartes, Archimedes, Henry Ford, uh, people who represent this kind of energy that you might have heard of. Very potent right now. We're a fifth race, fifth subray. You can get into all these number correspondences, which, again, you can take this as deep as you're willing to go or can go, because it'll always go farther than any of us can go, because this is the universal structure. And we can say, well, what about astrology? Yes, take astrology and then work with the rays with astrology. Psychology? Yes, take psychology, use the rays, learn much more about the human condition. Take science, take any of these things and go deeper with the ray studies. Ray 6 is what we've been dealing with for the last 2,000 years. This is the Piscean, the Jesus world, pretty much. It's idealism. It's fanaticism, if it's on the darker side. But it's ultimately that utter devotion to a cause or a guru or something where you've given up yourself for something higher. You will be burned at the stake. You will be thrown to the lions. But you're beyond that now. You've given yourself to something beyond that. So you're purified of the self. Very powerful ray. And it helped all of us become individualized. Individual in the sense of, I am now a person. I matter. I have value. And the age of the individual now is fading. slightly to allow the age of the group to express itself because the age of the individual is limited. This is where you sacrifice for love. This is the romantic ideal. This is the Gandhi approach too. You sacrifice everything because the 2, 4, 6s are all kind of related, and the 1, 3, 5, 7 rays are kind of related. They're kind of the more materialistic, getting things done. Uh, and the other 2, 4, 6s more the quality aspects of that. But they all interconnect. There's a plant kingdom, and this is where devotion, emotion becomes selfless for the greater good, not just for individual good. But we have seen for the last 2,000 years fanaticism, intolerance, and a lot of violence because of that one pointed focus on what people think is true and right. And if I'm right, you're wrong, and I can do what I want. Jesus, Maria Montessori, again, had a vision of education. St. Francis, Socrates, King David, and others through his songs and so forth. But this is just giving you ideas to play with. And again, are you fanatic? Are you intolerant? Can you devote yourself wholeheartedly to the master's work or whatever you feel is important? 7, this we start to ground, just like our seventh chakra, the root. This is where God's idea, God's plan, God's desire is manifested, is grounded, where the crown and the base chakra talk to each other, communicate. The Kundalini starts to rise. Everybody's on the same page. Boundaries blow away. Visions open up. The world becomes very different. It's taking spirit, but giving it a form that it actually can use. The soul works for eons to create a personality it can work through. Nature works for eons to create the forms that we know of, the ant, the plant, animal, mineral, human forms that then can absorb higher and higher frequencies so they can then mirror the higher light, not only within themselves, but throughout the planet and then through the solar system, because these go on and on and on. So here we have the final ray, the 7th. And again, when we talk about ceremonial order or magic, we're talking about, again, grounding, making real these energies, making them real in the sense of at the lowest level they can be worked with. Base of the spine, the mineral. Because the mineral is the grounded element in our world. And as the minerals evolve from a piece of coal or whatever into gemstones, into the ruby and the emerald and the sapphire, and show more and more of this divine light. And then the crystalline structures, the amethyst and the quartz crystals, not only show the divine order and structure, but then they become communication vehicles through their lines of light and energy. This is a slow process. Living structures. That's why we have pet rocks. That's why we talk to our crystals. Everything is alive, everything is conscious. It's just slowly, slowly becoming more obvious. And then the dark side is just that rigidity and just forms for form's sake. If any of you ever worked in a bureaucracy, you can understand because that mechanization that we do the same thing the same way every day forever is a way of avoiding bringing in the higher light. It's a way of blocking what should be simply a way of grounding. Now, again, this is for you to consider, if you wish, that each of us has these five rays going on at one time. The soul ray is a ray that we have for many, 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 many lifetimes. The personality ray is for this particular life, and it is qualified by our mental vehicle, which has its ray, our emotional vehicle, which has its ray, and our physical, which has its ray. Again, these are studies you can take up or if they have interest to you. And these make up what we call ourselves. And this also affects everyone we're connecting with. So if we have a fifth ray mental vehicle, we're going to relate well to fellow scientists because probably we're a scientist in some sense of the term. And the people who are just sixth ray, just fanatical about this or that, we don't really have anything to talk to them about. We don't relate to them at all. So we eventually, though, because just like we do by having lifetimes as male and lifetimes as female and black and white and Asian and Indian and all these things, so that we cannot just be stuck in one perspective, that we are forced through nature to look at life through the eyes of all types of people, all civilizations, all time zones. And now we're adding more confusion, more ray structures. But this confusion, if we stay with it, can really open doors, really show us things that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. And also, when we're talking about the soul, what it is we're really working toward, what our essence is inside. Okay. Some physical vehicles are stronger than others. You can say, well, why is my brain this way? Why is my body this way? Why is my emotions this way? Well, that study of these rays can make this very clear. Or why is my husband this way, or my dad this way, or my whatever it is this way? Study the rays. Yes, we can study the Enneagram, we can study psychology, we can study astrology, numerology. These are all great. But the rays, again, are going to go a little deeper because they're more fundamental, because it's beyond psychology. These are the structures that the angels and the masters are working with. Put it that way. Okay. And again, this is the news. This is our anybody watch the news anymore? I don't know. Or just get it on your phone. But anyway, the sixth ray, and again, a lot of this started with the Christ appearing in Bethlehem, working through Jesus and all these other things. Sixth ray working with Pisces being very similar. And so you have the last 2,000 years of whatever it is. But it was pretty much a lot of idealism, a lot of religious fervor. But it's starting to fade like everything because we're on a clock. Remember, the universal clock is always moving. The gears are turning. It never stays. Into the seventh ray, which is also very Aquarian. And this is the two rays now are about equal and they're fighting each other. That's why everything in our lives is being polarized. Economics, religion, politics, relationships, national treaties, everything is being polarized because the sixth ray does not want to give up. Remember, it's fanatic, does not want to give up its old forms. it's control, it's religion, it's governments, it's monarchies, whatever it is, it doesn't want to give it up. And yet it knows in a way that it has to. And the seventh ray said, we need to bring some order here. We need to bring some sanity. We need to fix the environment. We need to work with groups. And we need to get away from this one guy running the show, giving orders, whatever. We need to do this together to manifest more of that second ray of unity. But this is the battle. This is what we're seeing every day on the news. Again, according to this information, the United States soul is second ray. So our role in the future is to show the love. China is first ray. So at some point, it's going to be expressing either more destruction or a serious connection to manifesting the plan, to bringing energy in from a very high levels, which can make our evolution on Earth, which is kind of stalled, get moving again. India also is first ray. And these two countries, in a sense, are the core countries of our wisdom. I mean, so much wisdom has come from India and so much from China. So anyway, just things to think about. You have to believe any of this, but again, play with it if you want to. And again, this explains it a little bit more. And again, you'll have a copy of this. But it's definitely the clash of the ages. You can't pour new wine into old wineskins. But if you happen to be the old wineskin, you may not be happy about that idea. Or you're working for an old wineskin, or you've given your whole life to an old wineskin. And the water bearer, Aquarius, is saying, sorry, guys, but the clock is changing. Look up, it's changing. The new water has to come. The question is, can we absorb it in a way that works for us as humanity? Or are we just going to do another cycle of destruction and then rinse and repeat again over millions of years, which the Mahabharata and others have told us we've done this before, and we don't want to do it again. At least some of us don't. So this is the part of bringing balance, because one of the rays might be much more prominent in us than the others. So those people who are just my will, my way, have to learn, or hopefully will learn, compassion, because then they say, well, wait a minute, let me look at how you're looking at this. Instead of just my way, let's look at your way, and then we'll look at our way, and we'll try to integrate it in some way that works. The devotional people who just, I already know it, I don't want to hear anything, I get it, I know it, don't talk to me, have to start thinking more critically if they want to bring balance. And because of the tension between the rays, the shadow elements come up. This is our national politics right now, is the shadow of America coming up to be dealt with so that America can move toward its soul, which right now it's using its personality, which is sixth ray, which is, that fanaticism of I'm right, and it's the American way or no way. So it's a long, hard process. But that's the only process to expand, is to go through the shadow. You can't just bury it. So all the junk that's coming out politically is things we need to look at as a culture, as a country, and as individuals. That's all. Because if we don't look at it, it doesn't get fixed. Any therapist knows this. We're on a universal planetary therapy mission here, being helped by the angelic beings, by the masters, and by beings from other dimensions, all here now, helping. And again, you could look at, well, what do I do? Well, I'm a teacher, or I'm a philosopher. Well, see, kind of see what the rays are telling you here too. Obviously the willpower, the executives, the pioneers, the Henry Fords, the people who just start something new, just break through everything. you know, General Patton, who always broke every rule and got there faster than anybody else. And the Ray 6 can be great healers because they're so open to a higher energy, or they can be. Aligning vocation with soul purpose. Everyone says, well, what should I do? What should I be doing? Well, a study of the rays can help with that. Just like a study of astrology or a Enneagram or other things can also help with that. But you see, this is a much more elaborate system, potentially, if we want to go there. Because this is affecting all of our bodies. With theosophy, we know that we have many bodies. Well, each of these bodies is qualified by these rays. So it becomes much more interesting dynamic. We may be an Aries or a Cancerian or something, but what else are we also? And how is one affecting the other? And what is the lesson behind each of these experiences? Will I have a different life if my mental is 2 in one life and 7 in another? How will that affect me? What can I learn from both? And if I have a fourth ray soul, what is blocking my creativity, my art, my expression? What is the difference between a Beethoven and us? That's all. Or between a Newton or any of these well-known figures who exemplified in a way a more positive aspect of array, at least in one sense. One sense. Again, this is trying to bring it all together with synergy, which is seventh ray, which is what we're getting bombarded with now, along with Aquarius, which is synergy, synthesis. So can we bring the visionaries together with the harmonizers and the analysts and the implementers? Can everybody work together? This is called, unity and diversity. This is the United Nations trying to make the world peaceful. This is a Nicholas Roerich trying to get a peace flag and a meditation center in the United Nations and trying to get everybody speaking the same language. And we certainly know if we're in business that, teams have been a key element in business development for a long time now and probably won't be going away anytime soon. But the trick is to make these teams work in the most efficient and positive way for everybody. Ideally, not just for the CEOs, but also for everybody in the organization, from the janitors on up, from the nurses who are striking. This is again touching the surface, but places to start. Um, I couldn't figure out, I was going to show a movie at the end, but I couldn't do that. Anyway, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, The Holy Mountain, which is a famous movie in my time. I don't know if everybody remembers it, and The Seven Voyages of Sinbad, and so on. Again, why seven? Seven, seven. Seven goes on forever. Seven rishis, seven hills, seven sons, the seventh son of a seventh son, seven sisters, so on. And if you play with occultism or magic, the sevens again take on a very profound use because once you have something connecting to something else, you have energy and power. If you take a color or a note and you say, okay, what relates to that color with that note? And you can go on through hundreds of things that are on the same harmonic, then you can do many things with that kind of energy. Oops. All right. All right. How do I find everybody? That is the end of our, I'm open to questions or
I'm going to invite everybody to go ahead and unmute so that you can ask
oh, there we
questions
go.
or
Okay.
provide comments. Anybody? And I want to say thank you, Ron. This has been a beautiful presentation and very, very comprehensive and a lot, much to think about.
Thank you. And it is overwhelming at first. It's like anything in the esoteric world. It's a black hole until we start going in and getting more comfortable within it. Uh, but I will send this to Kathy. She can send it on. And again, people are welcome to email me uh, privately with more questions or thoughts or need more resources or something like that. Um, I've
I'm going to
always
go
leaned,
ahead. Oh, go
uh,
ahead.
no, I've just always leaned on the Geoffrey Hodgson material because I feel a connection with him, so it's easier. But again, many of the metaphysical writers now are doing this again with different degrees of, say, insight. But again, if you look at the whole, it's again broadening our knowledge of the world and ourselves and the countries that we're living in.
So Ron is willing to share this PowerPoint with anybody who wants a copy. I think he has made a PDF out of it so that we can do that. Many of you that I know, I mean, you know that I have your email address, but many of you, I don't have the email address. So if you'd like a copy of it, would you please type your email into the chat box? If you're not a regular member of the group, I would appreciate it if you'd, because I may not have your email. So go ahead and type it in the chat box, please. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point, and then we may have some questions after that.